4 dead after floodwaters destroy homes. Call for health department to help cancer patients. And first PNG virtual reality film launched.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and welcome to Monday's news. 4 people have died in the lower Watut area of the Robbery province after flood swept away several houses last night. The 4 bodies were recovered this morning by search parties led by local level government officers. This follows 4 days of torrential rain in Robbery province that also damaged roads and bridges.
The flood victims are from Pararoa village in the Watut area that's several kilometers away from Lae City. The Watut local level government president, Waka Damon, told MTV that 4 of the bodies were recovered early today and government officials and villagers are still searching for the other 3. The flooding happened at 7 p.m. last night. 4 houses were washed away. Those who died were all from one family. In Morobe alone, heavy rains have caused damage in various parts of the province. Today, the Works Department finally opened a Bailey Bridge to the public. The 11-mile section of the road had been closed since Friday after floodwaters washed away this road section, bringing traffic to a standstill. Outside of Lae, access to another part of the Nawaib district is cut off. A bridge over the Busu River severely damaged by the floods. The bodies of the 4 people from the Watut will be brought to Angao Hospital tonight, and while the death toll may have been minimal, the cost of repairs and maintenance will be relatively high. Scott Waide, National EMTV News, Lae.
Police have shot 5 of the 7 armed men who held up a senior public servant at his residence between 7 and 8 p.m. on Friday and stole his vehicle. One of the suspects was killed while the other 4 are admitted at Angao Hospital. It was reported that the armed criminals took the vehicle before they fired 2 shots from their homemade guns to scare off other residents who tried to stop them. Police were alerted and gave chase. Lae Metropolitan Commander Chief Superintendent Anthony Wagambi says police also confiscated homemade guns, knives and live ammunition. The 4 suspects will be arrested and charged once they are discharged from hospital. A philanthropist has made calls to the National Department of Health to assist repatriate cancer patients at Engao's hospital back to their provinces after completing their treatment. Michael Early made those remarks after he paid for an airfare ticket to help a 60-year-old cancer patient, Willie Kauba, back to his family in Rabaul. Kauba has no relatives in Lae and had been living in the ward after completing his treatment 5 weeks ago.
Michael Ellie, who heads a foundation set up to help needy people, said Kauba's experience is one of many. There are other patients facing similar situations after treatment. Patients who were referred to Lae find it difficult to return home and need support from government. Ellie is appealing to the National Health Department to set up a foundation so funds from the government can go towards assisting such patients.
I would also call upon the member for Lae if we can.
Mr. Ellie assisted Kauba, who spent 5 weeks living in the ward. He had no relatives in Lae. Radiation Oncology Registrar Dr. David Kundi and the nurses at Angao were looking for help until Ellie assisted him last Friday.
Especially business houses in Morobe and Lae City, to have an open heart to give. You know, you don't have to expect blessing from God.
Mata Luis, National EMTV News, Lae.
Mount Hagen resident Judge Justice Godwin Poole inspected the Buns police cell block in Jiwaka province today. He visited it to see for himself what the police cell looks like for the purpose of his commission of inquiry into the condemnation of the cell block. Justice Poole told the Provincial Police Commander Joseph Tondop that he is concerned why the cell block was ignored by relevant authorities.
Today, Justice Poole traveled from Mount Hagen to Ban cell block in Jiwaka province. Upon his arrival, he inspected the police cell to see the state of the building and know how the police station operated in a deteriorated building. The Ban's police cell block was built before PNG got its independence in 1975. In 2002, it was condemned by the health inspectors due to no water supply into the cell block and the police station. Since then, the cell block was still in use until this year. Justice Poole had found out about the condemnation when a criminal matter involving a death of a detainee at Ban's cell block was brought to him at Mount Hagen National Court. He created a commission of inquiry to find out more about Ban's cell block and know why it was never looked into by the Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary and the past successive governments. He was assisted by RPNGC, Public Solicitor's Office, and the Public Prosecutor's Office, including provincial administrators of Western Highlands and Jiwaka and health authorities. Vasanata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
Despite the high cost of open heart surgery in the country, Pacific International Hospital completed 4 major operations within 5 days. PIH Chief Executive Officer Sandeep Shaligram said as much as possible the hospital wants to reduce the cost by allowing patients to access this service. PIH plans to carry out the cardiac operations on a 3-month basis.
The 4 operations were completed between 13th and 17th October by a visiting cardiac surgical team from Sal Hospital in India. The team commended the current facilities at PIH, stating surgeries in the country will be cost-effective for those that have heart problems.
The idea is to introduce cardiac surgery into this country. We will be coming regularly as per organization from PIH. And we wish that more people take advantage of this surgery. This is all viable only if patients get ready for getting operated at this hospital.
For many Papua New Guineans, affording such operation in the country or abroad is still an obstacle.
People apply the line stuff here. That's what people got money long operation site long people. But when the money goes short, now people apply enough and go and die.
The cost of a single operation is nearly 60,000 kina. However, PIH has reduced to nearly less than half of that. The hospital CEO says the more patients admitted to access this service, the lower the cost becomes.
I wish we could discount the prices more. We already discounted whatever best we could. And I wish if the numbers are higher, we could bring the prices down again. Because each of the equipment is very expensive.
Heart disease is becoming a common threat in the country as people adapt to modernization and change their livelihood. Ophthalmologist Dr. Amina Sultan says the earlier the disease is identified, the easier the operation will become.
They already know that through their angiograms that they do have heart disease, that they should not wait to, seek the procedure.
Avoiding of tobacco is important. I would suggest reducing alcohol. That helps because you don't need too much of bites. And over and above that, adequate exercise and try to reduce your tension in your life.
PIH plans to bring the cardiac surgical team back for more operations in the country. Jack Lapava Jr., National EMTV News.
October 17 marks the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. To commemorate the day in PNG, a new short film was launched focusing on a remote area located south of the autonomous region of Bougainville. The film is also a milestone for PNG in terms of digital technology, as it is the first 360-degree virtual reality film ever to be shot in Papua New Guinea.
October 17 was declared the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty by the United Nations General Assembly in December 1992. So the day is an opportunity to acknowledge the struggles as well as the efforts of people living in poverty. The short virtual reality film is called The Price of Conflict, The Prospect of Peace. Participants at the launch watched the film through customized headsets, which took them to Kono, in the far south of Bougainville, to meet a mother of 3 whose life was ripped apart by inter-community fighting, and a former militant who is now using cocoa farming as a way of sustaining peace between 2 villages previously in conflict.
This film series aims to show what happens after a conflict series. So, produced in partnership with Sydney-based VR specialists, this series aims to provide deep personal insights into conflict and post-conflict countries throughout Asia-Pacific, and to demonstrate the impact of programs to support conflict recovery.
Member for South Bougainville Timothy Masiu launched the film and acknowledged the efforts of organizations like the World Bank that continually raise awareness and assist governments to get rid of extreme poverty. He said PNG needs to take serious steps to address poverty before it turns into a calamity.
While I take this opportunity, I want to call on the national government of Papua New Guinea to do more in addressing issues of poverty, because as a developing country, we are faced with many cross-cutting issues such as this.
The UN National Human Rights Officer and chair of the 2016 PNG Human Rights Film Festival, Josephine Mann, said the virtual reality film will also screen through customized headsets as part of the PNG Human Rights Film Festival from the 21st to the 23rd of October at the Port Moresby Arts Theatre. It will also show in Bougainville as part of the Film Festival's roadshow between the 27th and 29th of October. Deli Waigeno, National EMTV News.
National EMTV News continues with more local news after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. 5 intending candidates for the National Capital District seat are calling for a free and fair election come 2017. Today, the candidates presented a 6-page petition to the Office of the Electoral Commissioner outlining their concern. They say the Office of the Electoral Commissioner must address their grievances for the benefit of all contesting candidates.
With the general elections looming, these candidates want clarity from the Office of the Electoral Commissioner. They stressed 4 key concerns surrounding the execution of elections carried out in NCD. With the city experiencing a population boom, the intending candidates want a proper common roll update system to be used.
We want to appeal to the Electoral Commissioner to ensure that Electoral Commission officials go into the settlements, go into the villages, and conduct house-to-house common roll update.
The other issue is age limitations. They say the Electoral Commission must specify the appropriate voting age limitations. The intending candidates signed the 6-page petition and presented it to the Office of the Electoral Commissioner this afternoon.
We want a free election, let the people choose their leaders, and allow the normal democratic system to flow.
They call on the Electoral Commission to also appoint neutral election officials for a free, fair election in 2017.
So we got to be very careful in appointing those officers who are going to lead as a returning officers, election managers, presiding officers. They're got to be neutral. You know, if you affiliated to any political, cronies, definitely you're going to, spoil the elections, and then people ended up in the court cases.
Most of the points highlighted in the petition draw from the rural-urban drift taking place in the city. They want the concern addressed for the good of all candidates contesting seats in the nation's capital. Jack Lopava Jr., National EMTV News.
Pioneer Grade 12 students of Yarawari Secondary School in Central Province were among the 150,000 students who sat for their national examinations. It was their first time sitting for this week's national examinations that will determine their selection into tertiary institutions next year. The first paper was on mathematics.
For Yarawari, over 400 students set the mathematics paper with external invigilators from nearby Sugeri National High School. This is the first time the school is conducting grade 12 exams, and Principal Andrew Moava is pleased that Yarawari has become a secondary school after 52 years of establishment as a high school.
They're excited too, and being a pioneer of any institution, it's something that everybody looks to. And you are the one, the pinnacle of that change that comes.
In NCD, students from 13 secondary schools set the exams. Delos in Bomana is one of the 13. When EMTV visited the school, students were into their second hour of the exam. Students who studied general maths or maths B took the exam in the school hall, while students who took advanced maths or maths A did theirs in selected classrooms. In total, 283 students set the exams. School Principal James Ume said the exam papers were picked up on time and the exams began at 8:30 in the morning.
Maths is normally the hardest paper, so it is given the first day. The students are doing that while they are, fresh. Yes.
The exams are being supervised by external invigilators from Marinville Secondary. Meanwhile, officers from the NCD Education Division have conducted observations on all secondary schools. Elizabeth Corsi, the Senior Standard Education Officer, said so far the exams are going as planned.
So we've done that last week on the grade 10s, just doing a normal monitoring, seeing that the students are okay, teachers are okay, all exam papers are. So that's what we did, and collecting data, of course. And we started today for grade 12s.
Tekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
A grade 12 student from Delos Secondary was expelled after he assaulted a junior student. The incident occurred after school last Thursday as the students were heading home. The school's disciplinary committee expelled the student following a meeting with his parents. School Principal James Ume confirmed the incident and said Delos will continue to take tough disciplinary actions against students who break school rules.
We believe that he was under the influence of alcohol when he bullied the student and assaulted him. And those are expellable offenses, so we had no option but to have a quick discipline committee meeting. His parents were called on Thursday afternoon and they came on Friday morning. We had a meeting and we terminated the student. Right. We terminated him from Delos Secondary School. And we made it clear that we are not terminating the student from the education system in PNG.
Salamaua Provincial High School will now have new dormitories after a Huon District Administration funding of 400,000 kina. Last week Friday, the high school graduated 312 grade 10 students right after the end of their examinations. Bethany Herman with this report.
Sitting next to a view that looks over the Salamaua Point and the station, the boys' dormitory has slowly deteriorated over the years. Student numbers at the provincial high school has increased, but little had been done to improve the dormitory. But there is going to be improvements made. At this year's graduation, it was announced that the Huon District Authority would be funding a new dormitory. 312 grade 10 students graduated from the high school, a clear indication that student numbers have increased.
We have 794 students on the campus, and that's the number we are looking after.
There are now efforts to build the new infrastructure. The Huon District has allocated 400,000 kina of district funds to do the job. Salamaua High School is slowly being improved, and in the next several years it's expected to become a secondary school.
Huon MP Ross Simo wasn't able to attend the graduation last week Friday, but a representative from the Huon District Authority Education Division presented the check of 400,000 kina to the school. The Salamaua local level government also presented a dinghy
to the school to help carry out its work.
Salama is good for the interest of the rural parents, the rural communities.
Last week, Friday, the deputy opposition leader, Sam Basil, attended the graduation. Bethany Harriman, National EMTV News, Lae.
The Octedi Development Foundation and its partners officially opened a new jetty along the South Fly area of Western Province over the weekend. Part of the Community Mine Continuation Agreement, a total of 14.79 million kina from OTML's tax credit scheme was approved to construct 5 jetties between the Middle and South Fly. The opening of the jetties marks the start of a new beginning for mine-impacted communities along the Fly River.
The construction of this 2.1 million kina jetty in the community of Madire along the Fly River now opens the door for many opportunities for the locals. The jetty is one of many impact projects along the Middle and South Fly region that comes under the Community Mine Continuation Agreement, or CMCA. OTDF Chairman Musewera says the jetty will make way for more developments in the community. It will be a platform for the locals to use and sell their fisheries and agriculture produce.
There is no way you can develop, suppose no got infrastructure, suppose no got bridge, suppose no got road, suppose no got airstrip. How will you develop? This opens the door for you. This opens the door for people of Tudi region.
Madire is one of 4 jetty projects in the Middle and South Fly region. It was built using OTML's tax credit scheme. The scheme is managed by the Department of National Planning, where they administer large programs targeted towards tangible benefits to mine impact provinces.
The tax credit scheme has been successful over a range since 1992, bringing meaningful development to impact communities and population in the most remote areas. And it contributes to achieving the government of Papua New Guinea's development priorities.
The construction of the jetty was done by Nawai Construction, and with the support of the local community, it was completed in a time frame of 4 weeks.
I'd like to express my biggest thanks to the communities at each respective location for their support, for supporting my crews during the construction periods. Without your support, nothing would have been achieved.
I'm very happy to see that jetty here because I was really evident how will I find the money. I used to come and sell fish here. So this time I'm already easy now. So I can come bring the things here and sell them here.
Stanley Over Jr., National EMTV News.
And now looking at our finance news, the kina closed unchanged at $0.3155 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.3080, $0.4013 Australian dollars, €0.2777 euro and 31.74 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, coffee, cocoa and copra closed higher, while gold closed the day lower. Copper closed lower, while palm oil and crude oil closed the day higher. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 39.44 points higher, the ASX is trading at 2.1 points higher, and the All Ordinaries is trading at 4.9 points higher. More local and international news when we return. Stay tuned for details. Welcome back. Ella Motors has announced the introduction of its new Hino trucks. The company now has 20 different models. On Friday in Lae, Ella Motors Divisional Truck and Equipment Manager Greg Williams launched the new Hino products. Williams says the company now believes they have the complete range to suit the PNG market. The Department of Works was the first client to purchase the models, which will be added to the existing construction fleet for the department. Department of Works First Assistant Secretary Andrew Buna says the new trucks will be used mainly on rural roads. Joseph Nobetao, the newly appointed Chief Secretary to the autonomous Bougainville government, has been sworn in. The new Chief Secretary takes over from Paul Kebori, who remained acting in that position. The autonomous region's president, Chief John Momis, has thanked his predecessor for holding office for the last 11 months during a time when the ABG faced immense tribulations from the national government.
After being sworn into office, President Chief Momis challenged Mr. Nobetao to revitalize the Bougainville Public Service. Momis said the Chief Secretary and the autonomous Bougainville government ministers must energize the public service to deliver outcomes with a holistic approach and strategy to development. Collaborative approach is the way forward for qualitative change. Meanwhile, Nobetao says his priority is to build the capacity of the Bougainville Public Service. His first move is to meet with all departmental heads and discuss some key challenges faced by the government. It will focus on ways to enhance Bougainville's current fiscal position. Nobetao has assured the Bougainville leadership that he was determined to change current trends and corporate culture considered that weight in the public service. He intends to formulate a new corporate plan for the Bougainville Public Service to be effective and efficient. Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV News.
Turning overseas, the death of the world's longest reigning monarch and Thailand's almost divine king last Thursday was a major loss to the country. King Bhumibol Adulyadej was so revered that many Thai people around the country fainted or felt unwell when they learned of his death after 70 years on the throne. Near the riverside Grand Palace, where the remains of the 88-year-old king will lie for months before a traditional royal cremation, government health officials have set up a tent to provide counseling for those overcome by grief.
Boonrong Triruangwarwat, Director General of Thailand's Department of Mental Health, said around 200 people have been treated by medics since the king died, some for hyperventilation due to anxiety. Boonrong visited the tent last Saturday and spoke with the mourners to gauge the situation. Thais loved King Bhumibol as a father figure. The death of the world's longest reigning monarch has left many uncertain about the future. Meanwhile, Thai Prime Minister Prayuth Chan-o-cha said late last Saturday the head of the Royal Advisory Council will stand in as regent while the country grieves over the death of the king and awaits his son to formally succeed him. Crown Prince Maha Vajiralongkorn has said he wants to grieve with the people and leave the formal succession until later, when Parliament will invite him to ascend the throne. The king died last Thursday in a Bangkok hospital and his body was moved to the Grand Palace on Friday. Thousands of mourners clad in black have flocked to the palace, waiting for hours for their turn to offer prayers. The king had been in poor health the past several years, and his death plunged the Southeast Asian nation of 67 million people into grief. Most Thais have known no other monarch. Lorraine Gabina, EMTV World News.
Same-sex marriage in Australia will likely be delayed for at least 3 years after the country's opposition Labour Party said last Tuesday it would not support legislation for a national vote on the issue. Australia's centre-right coalition government introduced legislation to Parliament last month to hold a public vote in February 2017 on whether to legalise same-sex unions.
The bill required the support of some opposition lawmakers because Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull's Liberal National Coalition has only a one-vote majority in the lower house of Parliament and does not have a majority in the upper house. Several independent MPs had already ruled out supporting the national vote, and with the rejection of the legislation by Labour, it ends any hope that the bill can pass through Australia's Parliament.
Why should gay Australians be subjected to a different lawmaking process than any other of our Australians? Why should a couple in a committed relationship have to metaphorically knock on the doors of 15 million of their fellow Australians and see if they agree with it? The easiest way is the way which this parliament has done for 100 years: legislate. debate it. I'm not asking every National Liberal Party member to vote for marriage equality, but I'm asking them to allow to have a vote on marriage equality. That is the quickest, cheapest, least harmful and most certain path. And of course, we will be pressing our case in days and weeks to come.
The rejection is a blow to Turnbull, who has seen his popularity wane amid frustration that he has failed to live up to his progressive reputation. Same-sex marriage is supported by 61% of Australians, a Gallup poll in August found, and Turnbull's inability to deliver the legislation could further damage his support. Turnbull has said that should the legislation proposing a national vote be rejected, the issue of same-sex marriage would not be reintroduced into Parliament until after the next election, which is due in or before November 2019. Lorraine Gabina, EMTV World News.
Stay tuned, we'll be back with Trukai Sports after the break.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. In football, only 27 more days remain until the first match and opening ceremony of the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup in Papua New Guinea, and preparations are now in full swing. The local organizing committee for the event is now gearing up, with the overlay and competition teams working with the host venues to ensure all is in readiness.
Amongst the preparations, laying of pipes for fiber optic cabling has already been completed at the Bava Mini Stadium and the PNG Football Stadium, which will allow officials along the field of play access to internet services during the tournament. Alongside that, the security team, through the LOC's Security Committee, is finalizing its operational order that will see roughly 1,200 security personnel taken from the Defence Force, the Correctional Services and the police. A fan zone will be set up at Vision City's amphitheatre with the idea to bring football to the people and introduce the beautiful game and its commercial affiliates to the general public. Susa, the Under-20 World Cup mascot, has been out and about making appearances at the local communities in a bid to bolster further support. On MTV's Football First program last week, CEO for the local organizing committee, Seamus Martin, had said a lot was happening behind the scene.
That's one of the good things, one of the things behind the scenes, which is very hard to get across to people, the impact that these sorts of events have on people. So I'm really hopeful that FIFA are going to look at that, maybe tell some of these untold stories, share the stories of PNG, domestically and internationally. And really put the spotlight on PNG.
Tickets for the event can be found online, with the sale for the general public to occur on the 1st of November. Now, the Chief Executive Officer for the local organizing committee, Seamus Martin, has said that this will be the biggest sporting event to be broadcast from PNG, and that this is an opportunity for Papua New Guinea and the host city to show the world that we can. The World Cup is coming. Jeremy Moggy, National MTV Sports.
Cool Graphics proved their worth as champions of this year's media pool title after defeating Dataco Pebbles 4-0. The finals playoffs was held at the Lamana Gold Club yesterday. Cool Graphics made their way through in the semi-finals after defeating Spin Doctors. After 3 hours of serious competition, it all came down to one shot that determined their win when the final ball was sunk. And in cricket, the second day of the Intercontinental Cup today saw Namibia chasing the Barramundis 311 runs after 96 overs. The Namibian side put up a good chase but fell short at all out for 146 after 55 overs.
After ending the day yesterday at 9 for 294 after 93 overs, the Barramundis continued their running streak with the 3 remaining overs this morning. After today's completion of 96 overs with a final partnership of skipper Asad Vala and Willie Gavera, ending with the Barramundis all out for 311. Namibia, however, suffered a dismal top-order collapse. Opening batsmen Rian van Vuren and Steven Butt stamped in surprising fashion, with their side having only 3 runs after 3 overs. JP Kodsi next on the crease, but failing to make any difference, with Namibia finding themselves at 3 for 14 only minutes later. Captain Cyril Berger steadying Namibia's innings with a healthy 54 runs, although that was not enough, with the day's total ending at Namibia trailing the Barramundis by 165. The second innings continue tomorrow. Dini Rose Reko, National EMTV Sports.
The Port Moresby Hockey Association held their final round-robin matches over the weekend, with teams playing for a spot in next weekend's grand final. Manu's Pride and Joy, Sunam, progressed through to the Cup Grand Final after a 2-1 defeat over Multiview Production.
The preliminary finals were held over the weekend, with teams from each division battling for the top 4 positions to advance into the semi-finals and later the grand final. In the women's division, Sunam went into the last weekend of competition as the favourites to secure the minor premiership, after a double defeat over the weekend, particularly against the MVP Blues, who did contest well with superb goalkeeping from PNG's goalkeeper Rachel Raby. The Manus-dominated team had edged over the line, securing a 2-1 win, progressing into next weekend's grand final. In the men's division, Blades had to secure a win or draw with Wanderers on Saturday to bag the minor premiership title based on competition points solely. But still in the lead with a hefty goal average advantage, they progressed to the finals against Sunam. In Sunday's other matches, Blades defeated Golden Eagles 9-0 and United thrashed Global 6-0. Lorraine Genia, National EMTV Sports.
Trukai Sports will be back with details of rugby union after the break.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. The Morobe Hammerheads are the reigning champions of the National Provincial Championship Export Sevens competition. They defeated the East New Britain Stallions 26 points to 17 in what was an entertaining match.
The Stallions drew first blood in the first few seconds in the first half, spotting a gap in the Hammerheads' defence.
Towards the left side, spots a gap, goes straight through it. He's got support on the inside, a big fend off. This will be the first try of the match. Will it? Gives him another palm, gets there, and that's the first try to the
Stallions' try came as a wake-up call for the defending champions as they struck back few minutes later when a Stallions player was sin bin for a delay in play.
Sending him to the bin for 2. Got it all to do, the defence. They're really going to stretch them. And the Hammerheads go in to score!
This levelled the score at 7 points. Stallions struggled to contain the Hammerheads with 1 man short. This then saw Morobe scoring their second try.
Hammerheads have taken the chance. And they will get the 5 points. You better make that 7. I'm confident the kick will go.
Stallions did not go down without a fight as they managed to score right on half-time, with a missed conversion kick, leaving the scores at half-time on 14 points to 12.
The defence tries to make the tackle. The Stallions will go over and score the try. Well, they did it with
A minute after the second half, Morobe came in strong with a try to further their lead. A successful conversion kick raised the score to 21-12.
He could go all the way. The chase is on, but it won't get to him.
Just like the first half, Stallions were not going down that easily, scoring a try 3 minutes before full-time.
It makes the attempted conversion very, very difficult. Yeah, again.
But the reigning premiers would have the last say with a solo try in the corner right on full-time. Morobe won the cup against Stallions 26 points to 17.
They're going to have to check the tape on that when it looked like it came out of his hand, Pete.
Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
The PNG Pukpuks will shortly head into full swing of preparations for one of their biggest gigs this year, the Asia Cup of Nations in Hong Kong. National coach Sydney Wesley, who named his extended squad earlier this month, will be looking to finalise the final playing squad following trials this week in Port Moresby.
Exactly 1 year ago, the PNG Pukpuks had introduced a new contingent who went all the way through to reclaiming the Federation of Oceania Cup in Port Moresby.
Just through the hands and they'll score! Papua New Guinea, over!
This time around, with the Asian Cup of Nations in their calendar of events, coach Sydney Wesley has made the call to retain the same playing group with the hope of building them into next year's World Cup qualifier.
But the squad as it stands, the numbers that we have, that is pretty much the squad that we will take through to World Cup qualifier next year, unless there's some major concern for injury or form, that sort of thing, then we will have to make changes. But in any case, the squad that we have right now with a few more fringe players that we've left out, that'll pretty much be the team that we will be taking into World Cup qualifier. And if you look at the squad as well, the core of the team that we had last year, they form the core of this team as well, which is good for continuity, and considering they're young, it's good for the national side going forward.
Over the weekend, the squad had their fair share of fitness, playing in the National Provincial Championships, giving light to Wesley's focus on strength and conditioning.
Nigel Genia and John Kent were here on the weekend. They took part in the NPC Sevens. Pretty much all the Moresby boys, or I guess all of them, played on the weekend. It was good for conditioning, and this actually started from the previous week during the Hetera Sevens, where we had all of them playing.
This week, the team made up of players from around the country and Brisbane will face their first trial match. These trials will be a platform for the squad to prove their form to maintain their spot in the 15-man team.
First trials will be sometimes during the week, and after the first trial, we will go back and do a bit more runs at training, and hopefully by the end of the week or on the weekend, we will have our second trial to finalize the squad to go to Hong Kong.
Lorraine Genia, National EMTV Sports.
And that's a wrap for True Kai Sports. We'll be back with weather details after the break.
Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield, with doing with Dulux.
Looking at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region, fine although cloudy at times in Port Moresby and Daru, few showers in Kerema, mostly fine in Alotau, and brief showers in Popondetta. In the Momasi region, brief rain showers in Ley, fine although cloudy at times in Medang, few showers in Wewak, and a few thundery showers in Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, a few showers with thunderstorms in Lorengau and Kavieng, few showers with possible thunderstorms in Kokopo and Rabaul, early morning brief showers likely in Kimbe, and some showers and thunderstorms in Buka. And in the Highlands region, brief rain showers, then morning fog in all centres.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield, with doing with Dulux.
Now recapping our main stories for tonight. 4 dead after floodwaters destroy homes. Call for Health Department to help cancer patients. And the first PNG virtual reality film launched. And that has been the news, sports and weather for tonight. On behalf of the entire news team, I'm Helen Seah. Pleasant viewing. Good night.